It's not looking good for Justin Trudeau. And as you can tell by my face, this is tremendously good news. Not only is Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party of Canada constantly badgering Trudeau to resign, to step down, and call an election, but now what you've had is in the past few days, or even it's been mustering over the past few weeks and kind of a couple of months, internally, some Liberal MPs that are calling for their leader, Justin Trudeau, to step down. And yesterday, what happened was absolutely catastrophic for the Liberal Party. A bunch of people were like, hey, man, we're getting a petition ready. And speaking of petition, I got a petition for you to sign soon. But we're getting this letter ready. We're circulating it within the Liberal cabinet, and we're demanding that our leader resigns. And then they went into a meeting, and they came out saying, beep, boop, beep, boop, we have full confidence with our leader. So that was kind of weird. So Justin Trudeau silenced everybody, but nonetheless, they've still given him until October 28th to come up with a decision on whether he's going to resign. And then October 29th, the Bloc Québécois has said if we don't get what we want with old age security, we're going to call a vote of non-confidence. So far, we know we've got the Bloc is going to vote in favor of non-confidence. The Conservatives are going to vote in favor of non-confidence. That's not enough to win because the NDP is not going to vote in favor of non-confidence. But now you've got 20 to 30, maybe even 40 kind of rebel Liberals that are saying we are going to vote in favor of non-confidence. So not only is Pierre and the Conservative Party saying you should resign, Trudeau's own Liberals are saying you should resign. The majority of Canada is saying you should resign. And then the kicker is the rest of the world is saying you should resign. You've got American news saying that. You've got Indian news saying that. It's not looking good for Justin Trudeau. And we might find ourselves in a fall election. I think we might see something happen before Christmas, which would be a phenomenal parting gift to Justin Trudeau, whose birthday is on Christmas, but also mine. I should have started with mine because it's super awesome to be born on Christmas. But since I found out that Justin Trudeau is also born on Christmas, it sucks a little bit more. But nonetheless, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. And of course, you might have heard me say this a couple of times already in the past couple of days, but I have started a petition. Now, this is only available to Canadians. And to stop Greg Fergus, the dude on screen right now, this corrupt ethics violating House Speaker, from muting the microphone. You see, when politicians are talking and they're arguing, sometimes out of nowhere, See what I did there? That's called irony. So he mutes the microphone out of nowhere, and this is discrimination. This is discrimination at the highest level to those who are visually impaired. It's also, technically, it should be illegal to Canadians, right? You shouldn't be able to do that. We have the right to hear what happens on the House floor. So if you go to stopmutingthemic.ca or click the link down below in the description or the pinned comment below, it'll bring you to this website. You can click at the top right, it says sign now, or when you scroll down, it says sign the petition, and just go around the website and take a look. There's also tell your MP, and there is a pre-written letter for you to copy and paste should you want, and you add modifications such as the MP's name and your name, and there's also a map which you can zoom in and find who your local MP is based off of where you live here, and copy and paste that email and send to your MP. And then it'll bring you to the actual petition when you say sign my petition, when you click on that button. And this is what it looks like. It's called Petition E5170. It talks about how it's discriminatory to not only Canadians, but specifically to those who are visually impaired. And at the time of this recording, we have over 3,500 signatures, almost 3,600 signatures. And so you might be seeing a higher number by the time you go to sign it. But nonetheless, I would really appreciate your support if you could share that on, Facebook, Reddit. Go tag your favorite content creators on YouTube. Go share it to them. Tag them on X. Go in the comment section, because this isn't about a Mr. Sunshine Baby petition. This is about being patriotic to this country and standing up for what's right. And we should not allow the House Speaker to abuse his power and control the narrative of what happens on that House floor. But nonetheless, let's get into this video. Something I haven't done in a while is start off with the polls. So we're going to start off with the polls. You got Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative Party candidate, at 219 projected seats with a bottom line of 191 and a top end of 242. Hut. Then you got 172 that you need for a majority. You have Justin Trudeau sitting at 58 projected seats. I do believe that on the next update, you're going to see that number come down because of how little confidence his own party, but specifically Liberal supporters, have with him right now. And then 99% likely across the board for the Conservatives of winning not only the most seats, but a majority outcome. So the polls are looking really good. Now, something that just happened in one of the most recent question periods earlier today or yesterday was that Brock, Conservative MP Brock, this is a weird thing about question period. Now, because there's two official languages in Canada, English and French, MPs have the opportunity to say or speak or respond in whatever language they choose. Some choose French because it's their first language and it's just easier. Some choose French because they know it's going to piss off a lot of people. Some respond in English because they know that, it's not only easier, maybe they don't speak French, but the majority of Canada and like the world is going to be able to comprehend English more in terms of numbers than French. So yesterday you had the vampire from the Liberal Party respond to a question that was posed by Conservative MP Brock. Brock did it in English, and the Liberal vampire, responded in French, and then there was a bit of a back and forth. I'll play that clip right now, along with a point of order that was raised in order to get Brock to apologize, which he did not.
$20 million for doing nothing on the failed arrive scam, $100 million in total in government contracts. If that doesn't scream corruption, I don't know what does. Will the Liberals get our money back?
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Vous auriez pu le dire aussi en français, parce que c'est en français.
Mr. Speaker, the question is in English, but I digress. Liberal corruption is on rinse and repeat.
He's going to get in trouble for that.
Investigating $100 million.
You can answer in Canada, you can answer any question at any time in French or English. Yeah.
Alors, s'il vous plaît.
He's not muting the mic, though.
Order.
Cooper's freaking barking. Can you say that in French?
Alfred Pellant.
Oh, he's not muting the mic.
Order.
He's not muting it, though. Look at him.
The honourable member.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, in relation to the introduction of my second question, I made a reference to the question was originally in English. I was unable to hear the minister's response because of commotion in the House. My volume wasn't working correctly on my headpiece. That's why I made the reference. Clearly, I recognize, Mr. Speaker, that every member in this House is entitled to respond and ask questions in both official languages.
Freaking Brock, man. Because Brock did not apologize, he then took to social media afterwards and apologized, right? And so here you go. You got MP Brock saying, I want to apologize to Minister Vampire Duclos and all of my colleagues for my comments in question period today. Every member of parliament has the right to speak in the official language of their choice. My comment was inappropriate and I am sorry. And as you can see with my top comment, every Canadian has the right to hear what happens on the House floor during debates. Stop the discrimination to the visually impaired and support the petition, please. And there you go. So now let's move on to Jagmeet Singh, who gave a press conference earlier about just what is going on and acknowledged that things are not looking good for Justin Trudeau. There we go.
Well, I would take a step back and first of all say that what the Liberals are doing is, and Justin Trudeau is doing, is acknowledging that he messed up. He's acknowledging that there's been problems in the immigration system, but more so that there's been serious problems with his lack of action on building adequate housing and investing sufficiently in the healthcare system. And what he's doing is he's doing a minor tweak of 20%. He's not actually addressing the serious challenges that people have when it comes to the immigration system, when it comes to our healthcare, when it comes to housing. People come to Canada with the hope that they can build a good life. But that is not what's going on right now. People hope that they can get a good job, find a home that they can afford, and be able to get access to the healthcare they need. That is not happening right now. And that is fundamentally what Justin Trudeau and the Liberals have failed to address, is the underlying problems. And this tweak doesn't actually get at the real root causes.
Right. So a couple of things that looked fake. That looked like a green screen. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if they used like a pre-recorded video of just that scene, but you could tell around Jagmeet's head and the MP that was standing next to him, that was like kind of blurry a little bit, which just tells me that was a green screen, but nonetheless still weird. But I'd love to know your thoughts on what he said there. That's in relation to the fact that Justin Trudeau just announced that they're cutting back minimum 20% on temporary foreign workers. Whoa, that's a big change, right? That's a big change for progressive government. Now, here's what Pierre Poilievre said without using a green screen. He actually walked onto the set and gave a speech, and you can tell that by the camera angle, it's not weird. It's not a weird camera angle like what Jagmeet just showed. But let's take a look here at what Pierre's response was.
Canada made me a promise. It makes all of us a promise, whether we're born here or arrive as immigrants. If you work hard, you get a good life. That anyone from anywhere can do anything. That hard work gets a powerful paycheck that buys affordable food and homes in safe neighborhoods. And that promise, like everything else, is broken after 9 years of Trudeau and the NDP Liberals. Most of all, he broke our immigration system. Today's immigration flip-flop is a massive admission of failure by Justin Trudeau, an admission that he's not worth the cost or the corruption. With his own MPs working to throw him out, and less than a year from the carbon tax election, Trudeau has suddenly admitted that radical, uncontrolled immigration and policies related to it are partly to blame for joblessness, housing, and healthcare crises. In fact, let's remember, after 9 years of Trudeau, we have 1 in 10 Torontonians lined up at food banks. We have 1,400 homeless encampments across the province of Ontario. 2 million Canadians have to go to a food bank every month. Scurvy is making a comeback. We have the worst economy in the G7. Everything is broken. And his immigration minister admits that that immigration is out of control after 9 years of Liberal policies. They increased population growth by 200% over the last several years alone. Now, Trudeau called anyone who disagreed with these radical policies racist. Now he's the one cutting immigration to pull back on the disastrous mistakes that he made. But worst, he destroyed the best immigration system in the world, a system that had a common sense consensus of conservatives and liberals for 150 years. Immigration was not even controversial before Trudeau came along. How did he do it? He left Roxham Road open for a year after President Biden offered to close it. He removed the visa requirement for Mexico, which caused an explosion of false and fraudulent refugee claims. And he allowed rampant fraud and abuse in the international student program, which has seen as many as 26 kids living in one Brampton basement and countless losing their lives to drugs, gangs, and other chaos on our streets, sent back in body bags to countries like India. He allowed ISIS terrorists into Canada, who then went on to try and attack Jews and other Canadian citizens. He's presided over a 251% increase in police-reported hate crimes. None of these decisions, by the way, were designed to bring workers to help with the COVID labor shortage, because none of those programs are labor programs. Roxham Road is not a labor program. Refugee claimants are not part of a labor program. International students are not supposed to be for labor, but for study. So this excuse is total nonsense. Trudeau's last-minute pre-election reversal cannot be believed. He can't fix the immigration system that he broke. And he now says he's going to cap immigration. Well, what else has he said he's going to cap? He said 6 months ago he was going to cap the number of temporary residents in this country to 5% of our population. Since that time, it's gone up to 7.3%. He said he'd cap the carbon tax at 11 cents a liter. Now it's 17 cents, and he plans to quadruple it to 61 cents. He said he'd cap this year's deficit at $40 billion. It's already $47 billion just 6 months later. You can't believe anything he says, especially when he's claiming that he will fix what he broke. Common sense conservatives will fix what Trudeau and the NDP Liberals broke. We will restore the best immigration system in the world. We will stop the illegal arrival of false refugee claimants by securing our borders, our ports, and our airports. We will end the abuse in the temporary foreign worker program, the international student program, and the refugee program. We will cap population growth so that it is always below the growth in housing, healthcare, and jobs. And we will, speaking of healthcare, we've got 20,000 immigrant doctors, 32,000 immigrant nurses in Canada today who cannot work because they can't get a license. We will create in the professions what we did as a country in the trades 7 decades ago. We will create a national licensing standard. Provinces can voluntarily adopt a blue seal so immigrant doctors and nurses can take a test, prove they're qualified, and get to work reducing those wait times in our hospitals. We will screen people coming in to keep terrorists and criminals out and allow law-abiding people into our country. And when they get here, they will see that the Canadian promise is restored. A promise that anyone from anywhere can do anything, where it doesn't matter where you come from, it matters where you're going. It doesn't matter who you knew, it matters what you can do. A country where hard work gets you a powerful paycheck, that buys affordable food, gas, and homes in safe neighborhoods. To do it, we will have a common sense plan to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, stop the crime, and repair our broken immigration system. Let's bring it home.
What an incredible speaker. No ums and ahs, no script, right? No, it didn't seem like he's got a teleprompter. I mean, he is just going to represent Canada tremendously well on the global stage. Like, I think Pierre deserves a silent round of applause after that one. That is better than any speech Justin Trudeau ever gives. Now let's take a look at what some professionals are saying or thinking about the future of Justin Trudeau, because it's not looking good. It's not looking good.
He's our CTV News political commentator and the former leader of the NDP. Tom, good morning. Good to see you.
Good to be with you, Marcia.
All right, so lots going on yesterday with that tense caucus meeting. What exactly was achieved?
I don't think a lot has changed. There's strong pressure now, not only from caucus, because when you have more than 20 people asking you to step back from your function as Prime Minister and leader of the party, then you're in deep trouble. But now we're being told that grassroots organizers, people who are in the Liberal Party, are going to be taking this up as of next week. So I think that the pressure is going to be, frankly, unbearable for Trudeau. I know how strong-willed he is and what a strong leader he's been on in many respects, but that willfulness could actually turn into a big problem for the party that he's headed since 2013, because he was already there for a couple of years before he was finally elected as Prime Minister. It's really going to be a problem, Marcia. I don't see an easy exit for him. One of the gracious things he could do would be to pull on that emergency brake that we call, prorogation. You essentially suspend Parliament for a time, and you give people a chance to organize some form of leadership to replace him. And he'd probably like to stick around till 2015, so that little plaque under his painting in the gallery says Prime Minister from 2015 to 2025. So if he makes it into next January, he's accomplished at least that. But I think that he's hurting his party now. I mean, he's got to start thinking about them and the future. There are a couple of really strong cabinet ministers, of course, who would run. Very strong people from outside. We learned this week that Christy Clark is very interested in the job and has been taking French lessons to be able to be up to the task. Mark Carney, of course, doesn't need French lessons because he speaks it quite well, but he's also somebody with a great track record who would be interested. So it's not for want of people, but Trudeau's got to understand that his time is up. So far, he's not listening, but I do think that there are enough people telling him the same thing that he's going to have no choice.
Okay.
This is the double-edged sword, though, right? That I've been talking about for a very long time. Is we want Justin Trudeau out, obviously. None of us, especially if you're this far into the video, none of us want Justin Trudeau to remain as Prime Minister. But the double-edged sword comes from the fact that if he steps down, you're going to have another Liberal take his place. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Quite literally, anybody and anything would likely be able to poll better, get more votes than Justin Trudeau. I don't think any other MPs would likely be able to handle the pressure of the hot seat quite like Justin Trudeau. Not that he's doing a good job, but in comparison to just some random Liberal put in that position with this mess that they would inherit, I think they would crack under pressure. So this is the weird thing where we don't want, well, I personally, you may have a different opinion, but I personally don't want someone else to replace Trudeau. I want his narcissism to carry him to either an election that's going to happen in the next few months or an election that goes until the end of next year, October 2025. But obviously the sooner the better. But him stepping down, it's not going to fix much. It's going to fix the Liberal support system, and they likely will start polling better, but it's going to make things worse for our country. Because then the Liberals, by getting more support, they might get more seats than when Justin Trudeau could possibly get. So we need to, when your enemy is digging themselves a hole, you let them do that. And so Justin Trudeau, keep running, keep going, buddy. But that election is coming. And when it comes, you will no longer have a job. That's quite simply put, the easiest way of saying it.
So if, Tom, then he were to prorogue Parliament, are you telling us that would be a signal that he is going to step aside, not trying to just take a break and work with the party and rebuild their faith and trust?
No, he can't rebuild their faith and trust when he remains 22 points behind in the polls. People understand that this isn't a one-off. It isn't a rogue poll by one polling company that has an axe to grind against the Liberals. This is all polling companies, all polling firms across the country telling them the same thing. It's going to be a slaughter for the Liberal Party if he remains leader. And he, I guess, is having really a lot of trouble understanding that it is personalized around him. So it's less about the long-standing Liberal brand that's gone through ups and downs. I mean, they had a really tough time before Trudeau came in. It almost got wiped out when Ignatieff was the leader. But Trudeau's done an amazing job of building them back up. But what he's got to understand is, he can't be like the old French kings who would say, après moi le déluge, after me, let the flood come in because there's nothing else that matters. I've been there. Trudeau's got to have a little bit more, frankly, abnegation. He's got to step back from himself and say, okay, it's not a one-person party. It's a party with a strong history, and he knows that better than most. And he's got to have the simple recognition of the fact that he can't continue in that role. I do think, by the way, Marcia, that he's there. He can bravely say the party is strong and united, but he knows that that's not the case. And he knows that, this is the great irony of it. He says that this is all about defeating Pierre Poilievre and his Conservatives, but in point of fact, politically, the only person in Canada who can ensure the victory of Pierre Poilievre is Justin Trudeau by staying there.
Let me ask you then lastly about the announcement today.
See, I'm not the only one that thinks that, right? It's a guaranteed win for Pierre Poilievre if Justin Trudeau stays in. It sucks because obviously I don't want him to be Prime Minister anymore. I'm sure you don't want him to be Prime Minister anymore, but him stepping down is only going to be beneficial to the Liberal cabinet and their polling numbers. Even if it's one or two extra seats that they get from what Justin Trudeau can get, that's still a net positive for them. And we don't want that. We want Justin Trudeau to tank the party as far as possible. So we gotta encourage him, right? We gotta encourage our enemy to keep doing bad things for themselves. It's phenomenal.
From the feds on cutting immigration levels, it feels sudden. Do you feel that this is a way for Trudeau to signal that he is listening to some Canadians who want to see things scaled back, or he wants to turn the page on this whole discussion around his leadership? What do you make of it, and what do you make of the timing?
Well, this is a perfect example of where Trudeau hasn't listened in the past, because people have been sounding the alarm about the very high immigration levels. Now, most Canadians have traditionally always been pro-immigration, understanding, as we all do, that immigration is how we built this amazing country of ours. But it's
targeted
for the first time, consecutive polling is showing a majority of Canadians feel that the federal government has just been letting in too many people too fast. It's not that they're against the idea of having more immigrants, but when you don't do any planning on education, on healthcare, and in particular on housing, then you get a housing crisis that is picked up not only by average Canadians who can no longer afford rent. Poilievre's right on that. His numbers are right. Rent has essentially doubled on Trudeau's watch. So how do you explain that away? So immigration becomes the example of bad execution of policy, failure to take into account the effect on people. And what was the really serious effect for Trudeau? Young people who were the bulwark of his support, that got him elected several times, are now turning massively over to the Conservatives because they realize that they've been let down by Trudeau. They have less of a chance of owning a house than their parents or even their grandparents, Marcia, and they understand that that's because Trudeau wasn't paying attention to the details. He loves the grand statement, but you actually have to manage things when you're running the government, and Mr. Trudeau has fallen down on that. We've got consecutive deficits. We've got structural deficits. He's accumulated more debt than every prime minister in Confederation before him combined. And people know how to count. They realize that the federal government is having a heck of a hard time controlling expenses, and that's one of the things that's going to be his downfall. Giving somebody else with credibility on economics the chance to come in would, of course, give the Liberals at least the possibility of changing the channel in the next election.
Going to be lots of questions for the Prime Minister next hour when we hear him. Tom, good to see you. In the meantime, Tom Mulcair is...
It's not looking good. Even the media is saying, hey, we got to get rid of Justin Trudeau. Let's call an election. And here's where it gets crazier, is you have international media. You've got in America, they're calling for Justin Trudeau to step down. And in India, they're calling for Justin Trudeau to at least call an election, right?
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is no stranger to political storms, but this one might be his undoing. After nearly a decade in power, Canada's once popular Prime Minister is facing the fiercest revolt from his own party. Disgruntled party members are no longer whispering behind closed doors as they give the Prime Minister a deadline: resign or risk tearing the party apart. Is this the beginning of the end for Justin Trudeau? Our final report goes into detail.
In Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's grip on power is slipping, and slipping really fast. Discontent is bubbling within his Liberal Party, with frustrated MPs delivering a blunt ultimatum: step down or face a rebellion.
After 9 years, the government has doubled housing costs, taxed food, punished work, unleashed crime, and is the most centralizing government in Canadian history. The House has lost confidence in the government and offers Canadians the option to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
Just let that sink in for a second. Let that sink in. You've got Indian News repeated Pierre Poilievre talking points. That's how bad Justin Trudeau is messed up. You can't make this up, man.
Tense 3-hour closed-door meeting on Wednesday, the cracks in Trudeau's leadership.
All right, so you get the point. They continue to use stock footage of here in Canada, and they regurgitate the same points that I've already said. And it's just craziness. It's craziness of what's going on here in Canada, man. It's so bad. It's so bad for Justin Trudeau that other countries together are commenting on what's going on, how Justin Trudeau needs to step down or at least call an election. Look, I've shared my opinion. I think I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic that we're going to see an election happen, early November, sometime in November, maybe early December, with how the relations are between the Bloc Québécois and the Liberal Party. It doesn't seem like the Bloc is going to get what they want, and so therefore, ipso de facto, they're going to call an election. Conservatives, the Bloc, and these rebel Liberals are likely all together going to vote in favor of a non-confidence, which, fingers crossed, could be enough to trigger that election. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys to smash the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.